All right. So the first thing was it says create a named range for the entire data set. And that was very simple. It was just a matter of highlighting the data set and going to formula, name
Are you
manager.
sharing your screen? I can't
Uh,
see your screen.
sorry, let me do that now. Okay. Sorry. Can you see my screen now?
Yes,
All
we can
right.
see it.
Okay. So to make a name range out of the entire data set, what was required was just to highlight the data set, go to define name, give it a name. So I can call it because this was employee directory, right? So employee directory. One thing with these name ranges, you cannot put a space here. It will not allow you. You see, I get an error. So, but I can use underscores. So employee directory, it's the scope is the workbook, and you can see the range. You can see it's also having these squiggly lines around the data set that I've highlighted. So A5 to E9, yeah, and I say okay. And you can also see this was also something I didn't tell you guys. When you highlight a data set, you can see the name on the top left corner. This, if you remember in the first class, I had explained what this does, and this was only basically to tell you either the cell that you have selected, or if you have in fact selected a group of cells, then it tells you the name of the group of cells that you have selected. So that's the first work done. Okay, I'll make it green. The second was to, using XLOOKUP, return the email and department when an employee ID is typed. So in fact, it's asking you to do some kind of tool that can help you to do lookups, right? So let's say I have here employee ID and I have here department. It was asking for department, email and department, right? So email, I put email here. Department, I put it here. I'll just move it. I'll move it like this. Okay. And some of you are asking me how I moved things like that. Actually, if you highlight cells in Excel, you can actually, once you move your mouse to the border of it, you can see it turns into this cross. Then you can just carry it and drop it anywhere you want in the workbook. It's a very handy tool. So basically, the question was when it says when an employee ID is typed. So if I type E101, for example, here, I want to see automatically the email and the department on these cells. I'll just make them yellow, which means I have to put some kind of formula in this cell that does a lookup of the data set to provide me that information. And to do that, I'll use XLOOKUP, and it's asked me to use XLOOKUP. The first thing is a lookup value, which will be whatever is typed in this cell. And the lookup array will be, so it's going to be looking for IDs in the IDs column, and it's going to be returning, the first case was emails. So it's going to be returning the emails here. And that's about it. The other things you can also do, like if it's not found, let's say not found. Yeah. And then you want an exact match. So you have to select 0. Yeah. And you want it to go from the first to the last. So you want it to search from top to bottom. So yes, I will say 1 and close the bracket and press enter. And you can see that employee 101 returns Sarah. The other thing was the department. So in fact, to make your work faster, you can actually just copy that formula. Now you see what I'm doing. I am not just doing Control C, Control V here because it's not really what I want. You can see that it has moved away from, remember we talked about relative referencing? Because this is relatively referenced, it kind of moved away from employee ID, which is what I was looking for, and it went to salary, as you can see here. It's now on name and salary instead of employee ID, and in this case, I want department. So I have to change the references here. One fast way you can move references is by, what we did just now. Just click on it and move it here. So you see if you look up here in the formula, you can see that it's changing from B6 to B9, which is what is selected at the moment, to A6 to A9, which is good. And then in this case, we want to return the department. So we have to move this one to here. But in this case, I'll do it manually. So I want I want to remove E6 to E9, and I want to change it to C6 to C9. So I'll just manually change this here to C9. And you see it has done pretty much the same thing. I like to do the the drag and drop approach because it's a lot faster. And then you press enter, and it says it's not found because let me see. Yeah, also the reference for why is it going to B13? In fact, it should stay here. Yes, there we go. So you see, now I'm looking for A13 on employee ID, which is the red cells, and I want to return this cell. So I'm looking for this here, and I'm returning this, and I get HR. So now that's assignment, the task 2 done under task 1. So now this is kind of a tool that helps us every time. So if I come here and I change this to 104, then automatically I get Mike, and he works in IT, and 103, and so on, right? So it's a tool that helps us to find in a data set values according to the value that you have put into the reference cell. This is a pretty small data set, so you can imagine if it was thousands and thousands of rows, then maybe your manager comes to you and says, employee with the ID E103, can you tell me which department he works? It'll be a pain if you had to search through thousands and thousands of records. But if you had a tool that was very handy like this, and you could just type in the employee ID, then you can quickly know the information about the employee. So that's kind of what this tool does. Any questions?
Yes. Can you explain how you drag the formula? Because I tried dragging my formula to another one, but it's not working. I don't know what I'm not doing correctly.
Okay. Let's add salary here, for example, salary. Okay, I will paint the format as we have always done. And now I want to add the salary. But then I don't want to start typing the formula from scratch. I can just come here, copy, right, with Control C, and come here. Actually, I could just use Control V, right? Or I could just say paste. If I right click, you can see several paste options here, right? And this one with FX is telling me to paste the formula. So you can also do that. However, it's not working because the references have moved. So what you need to do is to fix your references. You can see it has kind of just moved everything one step forward. And we just need to move them backward, in fact. So this one back. So back to employee ID, back to employee ID. And this time around, we want to return salary. So in fact, this one has to move forward to salary. So I'm looking for employee ID within employee IDs, and I'm returning the salary. If I press enter, now I have the salary of the employee. Okay. Is that okay, Florence?
No.
No?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. And then here it's asking you that if the ID is not found, to display not found. And I kind of have that in, I did it already in the formulas. So they all have not found. So it looks like this is already done. So if I selected 106, which obviously does not exist in the list, then you see all of them are returning not found. Okay. So it's already, this one also is kind of solved within XLOOKUP, okay? However, that's because XLOOKUP has this functionality for not found. But if we, for example, didn't do that, say I didn't add this functionality here, I just removed that. And I just did the, the traditional XLOOKUP of that return. Why did I? XLOOKUP, yes, sorry. It's giving me an NA because this value actually is not found, but if I put something that was correct, then it works. Okay, 106 gives me an error, okay, but I don't want to see this error. I want to see not found instead. Like I said, XLOOKUP can do it already because inside the XLOOKUP function, there is already a provision for things that are not found. But you can use if error, which is what this question is asking us to do, to clean it up and say that the value is not found. And for that, we can wrap this XLOOKUP function within an if error function to say, if there is an error in this thing that we're trying to do, then display not found. And close your bracket. So you see, it does exactly the same thing that this one is doing. You see, this one here has not found inside the XLOOKUP function, and it actually indeed tells us that it's not found. But this one has just the normal XLOOKUP without any not found in it. But then we have wrapped it around the if error function to tell us that there is an error in that function. And it does exactly the same thing. If I did a good one like 2, it's okay. But if I did a bad one like 7, then it's not found. So this one is giving us not found based on if error, but this one is giving us not found because the not found functionality is within the XLOOKUP function itself. So this one also is solved. Any question? Okay. And then, so this was using XLOOKUP. And if we wanted to do the same thing using VLOOKUP, I'll just put it down here. So this is using XLOOKUP. Make it bold. And here we want to do the same thing using VLOOKUP. So again, I will use an example, let's say 101, and then I will say, let's use VLOOKUP. Remember, with VLOOKUP, the lookup cell has to be the leftmost cell, which is the case here because the leftmost cell in the data is the employee ID, which is indeed what we want to look up by. So if I was looking for the email with employee ID 101, I can say VLOOKUP. Remember, first you select your lookup value, and then it asks you for the table array where you want to look up these values on. And the array is indeed this array. If you're not speaking, just mute your mic. And then it's asking us for the column index. So the column index in this case will be email, which is, remember this was 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means we're returning 4, okay? And you can see that we get Sarah in this case. Well, Sarah's email in this case, right? Which is exactly the same thing that we did up here. If I change that to 101, we get Sarah as well. So this is using XLOOKUP, and this is using VLOOKUP, okay? But remember, the problem I told you with VLOOKUP is it had to be the leftmost cell that you had to search. If this employee ID was on this side, for example, and you had data that you wanted to return on the left side of it, then it will not work with VLOOKUP. But with XLOOKUP, it doesn't matter if it's on the left or on the right, it works anyway. So again, I'll also copy the formulas for the rest of the department and salary, but I'll do it a little bit differently. I will use absolute referencing because I'm tired of moving the cells. You know, if I do that and I paste it there, you can see that the references have pretty much just shifted by one cell, and also the ID is now looking at the email. And I'm tired of doing that. So one thing I can do to solve that problem is to absolutely reference this range by using the who can remind me how to do absolute referencing? Not Florence. Who can remind me? If you were in the first class, you should know how to do absolute referencing. I want to lock A17. Who can tell me how to do that?
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, go ahead.
I think you use the dollar sign
Perfect.
to
Perfect.
lock something like that, yes.
Very good. Very good. So you use the dollar sign to lock it so that when you copy and paste it somewhere else, it will not change the reference. Okay. And to do the dollar sign very fast, you can use the F4 button on your keyboard, or you can just type it manually if you want. But I like the F4 button because it just helps me put dollar signs very quickly around my range. So I've locked A17, A6, and A9 and E9, and I press enter. Now this is really good because if I copy and paste there, you see it's still on email. The only thing I need to change now is this column that I want to return, because here I've manually typed 4, but for department it's in fact 3. So I'll change that to 3, and now I have department. And for salary, I'll do the same thing, and you can see how fast this is. And salary is I think it's 5, right? There we go. So you see how fast it is when you have absolutely referenced your cell. You have locked it, so you don't need to move the formulas anymore, and you get pretty much the same thing, right? So that's that one also done. And formula auditing just says you want to see you want to use trace precedence to evaluate the formula. Well, that's an evaluator formula. So let's see, yeah, here under formula auditing, you can go to your formula tab. And if I wanted to see the precedence for this VLOOKUP, I could click that, and it's telling me that the things that are feeding into this email formula here are coming from the employee ID and this entire range of values, okay? And the same thing if you did the trace dependence. Let me just remove the arrows. If I was on employee ID, I wanted to see which formula is depending on employee ID, I could click on trace dependence, and you see, yeah, I know it's a bit difficult, but you can see it's pointing to email, to department, and to salary at the same time. What I can do is to move it down a bit so you can see it a little bit easier. And if I did that, you can see it's kind of pointing to the different locations that are using this particular that this particular cell is feeding into these different formulas. Okay. Yes. Just a second. I'll remove the arrows and I'll move these back. Okay, and yeah. And of course, it was asking for evaluate formula, and that's this one here. So if you wanted to evaluate, the first thing it will ask you is what is in E17. If I click evaluate, then I see it's E101, which is true. And then it's now going to do the full evaluation of the VLOOKUP function to tell me what will be returned into this B17 cell, which I expect to be Sarah's email. And that's it right there, okay? So that's also that one done. And here it's asking me to use nested if to assign salary grades between, so salary grade A will be somebody that earns 7,000 and above, B will be 5,000 to 699 and so on, right? So I want to see 4 different salary grades based on the person's salary. And this is really easy if you use the if function. So I will start with the first if, okay? So the first thing it's telling us is if the salary is above 7,000, then the person should be grade A, okay? So if salary is E6, if it is greater 7,000 and above, so that means greater than or equal to 7,000, then the salary is A, grade A. So this is employees with high salaries. I'll stop there for now. Let me just expand it. yeah, obviously it's giving me false because it's not grade A. Let me just copy that down. But you can see that there is one person that has a salary that is above 7,000, and that shows A. So we have taken care of the first one. Now, how can we take care of B? Obviously, there are things that are saying false here. So it means that we have to take care of the false condition, which will be the next range here. Okay. So for that, we will come back to our formula here and say, okay, now we have A, but we have to do an if false condition, value if false. So the next thing we're going to check is if this value is between 5,000 and 6,999, but it's, yeah, you have a question? Okay. And who can tell me how I can do a condition that will tell me the values between 5,000 and 6,999? Can somebody tell me how I can do that? Anyone wants to try? Just try. No, there's no wrong answers.
Can I try?
Sure.
Do you have to start again with the if function?
Yes, of course.
Then that would be if E6.
E6. E6, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it should be greater or should it be equal?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Greater?
Yeah, greater.
Greater than or equal, like that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so sure because that's where I struggle, but I know you have to just restart the if function, but I'm not sure what to put in inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good try. No problem. Now, this one is a bit tricky, and that's why I asked you guys to try. Because this one is a range, right? It's a range between 5,000 and 6,999. For us to be able to have a range, we have to use some kind of logical function to say if the value is above 5,000 and less than 7,000, in fact, then give us something. And there you need this logical function and, if you remember well. And then and says, first thing is my value greater than 5,000, right? So in this case, greater than or equal to 5,000. That's the first logic. And the second logic that goes in the AND operator will be, let's say, let's just use 7,000 here. So this value less than or equal to 7,000. Florence, please always mute your mic. Okay. So you can see here I've done an AND function that says do that and that. So that means the value, this is 5,000, sorry. So the value has to be greater than or equal to 5,000 or less than, in this case, I think I don't need the equal here because 7,000 is already covered in category A, right? So now that's my AND function. So this whole thing here will give me a true or a false. If it gives me a true, and that's the value if true, then I want to return, obviously, this person will be category B, right? Like that. So I'm going to close it at this point and just see what will happen. And you can see that this guy has a 5,000 salary, and therefore he's category B. I'll just copy all the formulas down. Well, looks like we have rich people in the company, so they're all either category A or B. But if I had someone that was earning, let's say 4,000, then I get false again because I've not made the formula to take care of category B, category C and This was supposed to be D here. Category C and D, right? Meaning I have to continue nesting ifs in this if formula, okay? So let's continue. So the next one will be, expand this a little bit. Okay. So the next one will be 4,000 to 9,000. Since I already have something similar here, and you can see I'm doing it just as inside the second if. So every time we're doing it inside the if that we are currently working in. Okay. So I'll just copy that because it's similar and paste it here. And I will change just the values from 5,000 to 4,000. In this one from 7,000 to 5,000. There we go. And I will change the return value to C. And I'll close the extra bracket and press enter. And you can see that C has now been taken care of. If I copy that, paste it here, Control D, you can see we have BB, AC, but there's still one category that we have not captured, which is less than 4,000. If I, for example, change this guy to 3,000, so anything less than 4,000, well, make a mistake there, yes. So it's false, meaning I don't have anything to capture values less than 4,000. And for that, I need another if statement inside of the if statement. And remember, I told you always be inside of the current if that you are on. And I will be here, okay? And again, I will just copy from here, from this if, all the way to there, copy it, and continue my if, and just paste another if there. But this time around, I want it to just be less than 4,000, so I can remove this. Yes, actually I can remove this and just say that E6 has to be less than 4,000 for it to be a category T, like that. And I need to close the excess bracket. Very good. So now we have a function that always captures a salary category for every of our employees, like that. Okay. So even if I put 0 here, it's D. If I put 2,000, it's category D. But as soon as I get to 4,000, then it changes to C. And as soon as I get to 5,000, then it changes to B. And as soon as I get to 7,000, it's category A. And if I put 1 million, whatever, it's still A, because anything above 7,000 will be A, and anything above 4,000 will be C. Any questions? So we've taken care of all of them. Any questions, guys? Come on. To make it more visual, you can also expand this formula bar. And if you wanted to break formulas into multiple lines, you can hold the Alt key on your keyboard and press Enter. So you can easily see, and then after every if, just put a new line, right? Alt Enter. So you can easily see what we have done. The first if does that, the second if does that, the third if does that, and the fourth if does that. This is just to make it easy for you to see what you have done, because working with one straight line can be a bit difficult to read. But like this, it's a lot easier. Okay, no questions? All right, I'll leave it at that for now. And here, yeah, this is saying create a name range for the scores. And well, that's here. And you want to make it into a name range. You can actually also just come here and type the name range. This is a faster way of making name ranges. You can go there and say category. But of course, you have to highlight the cells and then press enter. And now this group of cells are now called categories, right? So just highlight it and you see the name is there. Of course, if you highlight individual cells, it's not highlighting the range itself. But if you highlight it all, then you can see the range, the name of the range up there. So that's also that one done. Okay, so yeah, watch the video. I'm not going to do task 2 and 3 because of time, but watch the videos and also attempt tasks 2 and 3, and we'll see, we'll check it again next week, Saturday, if you're able to do it. But of course, if you have any issues, feel free to reach out and we will try to help you. I'll save that, close it, and go back to the slides. Are you guys still with me?
Yes, yeah.
Very good. All right. Now we continue with the data processing, data management. And now we're going to look at the data tools within Excel. I have created some exercise data that we can use. I go back to the content, data tools. Okay, so I just left this blank sheet for us to use. There's a lot of things that we are going to do here. So just pay attention and try to run with me, okay? Removing duplicates. For this one, I will use this. By the way, there was something I forgot to show you guys here yesterday under filtering and sorting data when we looked at advanced filtering. Remember how I said you could come here and click on advanced, make sure that your range is properly selected and your criteria are selected, and then you can click OK and it will filter. The bit I had forgotten yesterday was that you can actually move that what you are copying into a new location by actually selecting, instead of doing filter the list in place, you can select copy to another location. And then you can see it has brought a third, yeah, so it's telling you to, it's recommending for you to put it in this location. If I say, okay, missing invalid field, or did I change my, just a second, I will delete this and I will just select this one and click OK. Yes, there we go. Yeah, so you can see it's filtering and it's bringing it into a different location. But in fact, I need to put in some helper columns here just so that I'll get everything. And then I'll just do it again. This is wrong. Select this range. Okay. The exact range has a missing or invalid field name. Looks like I have changed something in my data. That range is correct. Okay. I can see my list range is wrong. It should be everything here. And then the location to copy to, I can just click on here. That one is correct. That one, always check that all your references are correct. And now it's working correctly. So it's pretty much the same thing we did yesterday. We have, yesterday we filtered in place in the same location, but today we are filtering and taking the results to another location. So our data remains the same, but we have just pretty much copied it to another place, which is really good, in fact. If I wanted more data, I could just maybe remove the priority and just do that again. Copy to a new location, click OK. And now I have my filtered data in a different location rather than just filtering the original list. Okay. And that was just to explain that. Any questions on that? Good. Now we continue. I wanted to just take some data set from here. Let's say I copy this and I go to data tools. I'll just do it down here. So the first exercise here was to remove duplicates, right? Remove duplicates. How do you remove duplicates? You go to the data tab under data tools. So the tools we are working on today are these ones right here, okay? And this one here is remove duplicates. And by the way, if you have Excel, just try to follow along. And if you have any issues, let me know because it helps to just, you know, try to do it as I'm doing it. If you can follow me. Okay, so now from this data set, maybe I want to see only the, employees. So in fact, I can maybe just copy the employees. Say, for example, I had it in a separate table and I wanted this table to be only unique employees because now it's kind of messy because I have the employee names repeated a couple times. I could highlight all of them. And I did that by clicking on the first one, holding Shift, Control, and down on my keyboard to highlight them. Then I can go to the Remove Duplicate command here, and it brings up this screen, and it's asking me to remove duplicates based on this column, employee. And yes, that's what I want to do. And if I click OK, and it tells me that 31 duplicate values found and removed, 7 unique values remain. Note that the counts may include empty cells, spaces, etc., which is okay. The goal is that I have removed 31 duplicates and I have 7 unique values. So that's the same data, but with all of the duplicates removed. I could do it on the original data set the same way, pretty much. Just highlight the data set, come here, and I'm highlighting all by, you know, just clicking on any cell and typing Control A on my keyboard. And then I can go to remove duplicates. But here now you can see all of the columns in this set of data. And it's asking us on which column do you want to remove duplicates. I can unselect all or select all. And I can also say, maybe I want to remove duplicates only on tasks, okay? Meaning I'm going to see unique values of tasks only. Yeah, for whatever reason, if you want to do that. And then I'll click OK, and it has found 28 duplicate values and removed them. And there's 10 unique values left. And now my data is like this, okay? But then if you see the tasks, nothing is repeated here. I'll do Control Z to bring back my data. I'll just try it again with another column. Remove duplicates, unselect all, maybe select priority this time. We have only 3 priorities. I click OK. Now you have just 3 left. So that's how you remove duplicates from your data set. Any questions? Okay, that's good. Very good. So the next thing is data validation. Now, I will just delete this for now because I don't need it. All right. Data validation. What is data validation? I'm pretty sure some of you when you have tried to fill up a form online, say, for example, you wanted to register in Facebook or LinkedIn or any of those web apps, it would not allow you to put things in a certain way. Say, for example, your email, it must force you to put your email exactly the way an email should be written, with an @ sign, with a dot sign, or there are some fields that are supposed to be dates, and it forces you to put the date in a certain way. Things like that. So that is called data validation. And that's why when you fill up any of those fields in the form on the web page, you get some kind of error. Excuse me. You get some kind of error when you try to submit the form if the data in the field is invalid, right? That's kind of what we're going to do here with data validation. So I've prepared this empty table, right, that should contain certain kind of data. For example, employee, the employee list, I kind of made a small list of employees here that we must utilize when entering data in here. It must be these employees. It cannot be any other any other name, right? And then the department must be these departments here. I'll just delete that to bring it closer. It must be these departments here, and that we need to force anything that goes into the department cells to be any of these values here, okay? And then the due date has to be a date, we can say a date, the date cannot be in the past. I'll just say it cannot be in the past, okay? Or you can also set it to whatever you want. You'll see that in a minute. And the hours logged must be numbers, right? Okay, so we can put letters or alphabet there. And let's see how we can do that. So the first thing we do is, looks like I had done, just remove it. The first thing we do there is to go click on the cell or group of cells that we want to add this data validation on. And then under the data tools, you'll see data validation command. You can also just click the drop down and click data validation. Now it brings you into the data validation window, which has 3 tabs. On the first tab, you can see the validation criteria is telling you to allow, meaning whatever you allow here is what will be allowed in the cells that you have selected. At the moment, by default, you can see it says allow any value, meaning just about anything we type in here is gonna go in, okay? But that's what we want to stop now, right? So if we go there, we can say allow value. We can make it anything on this list. We can say, okay, we want only whole numbers in this cell. If I did that, and then it's asking me, it wants data between what value and what value. Let's say I wanted the whole numbers to be between 0 and 15, for example. And I click OK, which means in the employee list on these cells, I cannot put anything less than 0 or more than 15. So if I put 5, for example, it works. If I put 15, it works. But if I put 16, then you can see it gives me an error. This value does not match the data validation restrictions defined for this cell, okay? Because I've said that anything that must go in this cell must be between 0 and 15, okay? But for employee list, we're not going to use the whole number validation rule. That was just to show you. For that, we will use list, okay? So it could be anything. It could be decimal, it could be date, it could be time, it could be text. And then there is a special one, custom. But let's try list. Now, list just asks us that, yeah, okay, you want a list of values that are only allowed in those cells. And in my case, I have already prepared an employee list that I only want to allow in this cell. And then you can see here that the source is asking me for which list of values I want to force into those cells, and I want it to be these ones right here, okay? So, and you can see because I already gave this list of values a name. I called it employee list. That's why it shows employee list. But for now, before I do that, I'll just go and delete that list. Employee list, delete. So now I don't have it anymore. And now I highlight my range again, go to data, go to data validation, change that to list, and set the source to this source of values here, right? So I have a list that's pointing to this source of values. I click OK. And now you can see this, when you click on any of the cells, you can see this drop menu here. And now it's already kind of giving us a menu of values that are only allowed in those cells, in the cells that I've set this rule on. So I can select Alice and it works. I can select Charlie, it works. I can select Ethan, it works. But if I try to put my name, which obviously is not in this employee list, and I press enter, it comes back to me with the error to say that the value does not match the data validation restriction defined for this cell. Okay, so it's really good because in this case, if you had some kind of data entry system in your organization or your small business and you wanted your employees to put data in, but you want the data to be as clean as possible, then you can use this kind of data validation rule to force the one using this data form to enter only the values that are allowed into that field.
I have a question.
Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Can you customize the error message, the one that appears if the user enters valid data?
You can, and I'll show that.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question.
Sure.
What if I want to input a new name on the names validated? How do I
okay, that's also a good question. If say the employees, you have just hired a new person, okay, what you need to do, there are two things you can do. One is to make your, as I did before now, I had a named range here. I could have used the name range and made that name range to be dynamic, but that's beyond the scope of this course. What you can do is to manually come and update your employee list every time you have a new employee. So say, for example, we have just hired Joe in the company and we want to add Joe in the employee list. Then we would have to come back here and go back to the rule that we have set. And you can see that the range is going from G2 to G11, but Joe has been added in G12. And all we need to do is to just change 11 to 12 here. And now we will ensure that we have covered everything from G2 to G12 and click OK. And now if you look in the drop menu, you can see at the bottom that Joe is now included and is now allowed in the field. Okay. Any other question? All right. Then let's do the department. Pretty much the same way we have done the employee list. You highlight it, you come to data validation, you set it to a list, and then you set the source to the items that should be on that list, and then you click OK. And now we have only the departments that are allowed, so finance and HR, marketing. But if I put something like technical, for example, it doesn't work because it's not part of the list. Okay, great. Say IT, sales. Now, due date. I said before that the date cannot be in the past. Okay, again, the same way, highlight all of them, go back to data validation. In this case, we are going to select date, right? And now it's asking me the date between what date and what date, okay? So start date, obviously can be today. You can set it to 25, 05, 2025. And end date, let's say you know what? Because it cannot be in the past, we'll change that rule from between to greater than or equal to. Okay, and I can set it manually like this to today's date, but I can also use the today function. You know, the one I had shown you guys in previous lessons to say, let Excel dynamically put the dates because by tomorrow the date will change, right? And then I click OK. I think I have to put an equal to here. There we go. Okay. And now it will not allow you to put any date that is before today. So if I try to do 24, for example, 05/2025, which is yesterday, it doesn't let me. But if I put today, 25/04/05, 5/2025, it lets me. So any date that is before today cannot go into this field, but any date in the future can go into this field. And as I said before, it can be, you know, other things. It can be between two sets of dates. It can be not between. So if you wanted a date that was not in 2025, for example, then you can put the start date to be the 1st of January 2025 and the end date to be the last day of December 2025. And therefore you have now blocked all the dates in the year, but you can put dates before or after the year into that field, right? So play with it, try all of them until you get comfortable with it. And I'm pretty sure, yes?
Okay, I tried to validate some of my data. I did not copy and paste. I have a data already with names, and I copied and used the data validation. So I added one extra name to try to add it there. You know, on the one you did, it was in numbers. You just changed the number on the cell and it gave you. So I wanted to write, if I have something like, let me say Chichi, and I want to include the name Chichi. I try to click on the data validation to write Chichi, but it's not giving me what I want.
Okay.
I use the
Yeah. So what you are trying to do is you're trying to do it manually, right?
Manually, yes.
In this case, okay, you know what? Let me try to do it with the finance department because we have done it. We have referenced a range here. Sorry. We have referenced the range here, and in this case, we have just referenced the range. But in this case, let's try to do it manually, okay? And by the way, to remove data validation from cells, you can highlight the cells, go to data validation, and click on clear all, okay? Now there's no data validation in the cell anymore, okay? And I can go back to list. So what you have done is you have manually entered the data here. So I can say that's equal to, let's say, finance, right? And HR and marketing, like that. Sales, IT. Yes, okay, good. So now I've kind of manually created the list as against here where I've done it to be a reference to a list. Here is not a reference to a list. It's a reference to just what we have put, well, the list that we have manually created here. And for us to add new values in this list, so if I wanted to add technical, then I could just do that and just type technical here and click OK. And next time you will have technical in the drop list. Okay. Yeah, it's not on this one. It's not on this one because we added it only to the first one. Now, to make sure that your data validation is consistent across all your columns, you can come here and do Control-C, right? And highlight all of these, right-click, click on Paste Special. In this case, we want to paste only validation. So you can click on validation and click OK. And now the validation is available on all of the cells that you have pasted it on. Okay?
Can you do it again?
Sure. You copy the first one, highlight where you want to paste it, right click, click paste special. Now you can paste several things. You can paste only the formulas, the values, the format. You can paste conditional formats and things like that. But we want to only paste validation in this case. And you click OK. And now the validation is available here. Very good. And then the last one is the hours logged. Okay. And so here we can say this one, I just said the rule is must be numbers. So I can highlight all of them and click on data validation, and here whole number. And I can also set with between values. So in my case, I can just say, yeah, it can be because this is, let's say this is a time, a time writing sheet where they just come and write how many hours they've worked for a day. So we know that the value cannot be less than 0. Okay. So I can say between, so minimum value should be 0. And in our office, we work, the maximum number of hours we work is 8 hours. Let's say 10 hours because of overtime. So I can say 10 here. So between 0 to 10 hours. And then I click OK. And if I try to put -1 here, it gives me an error because -1 is not allowed. 0 is allowed, of course. 1 is allowed to up to 10 was the maximum I did. So it still works. But if I try to do 11, then it gives me an error. So that means in this form that I have here, I have now set data validation on all of the cells. So people cannot just come and put any values that they like in the cells because I have restricted the data that can go into the cell. Before we go for the break, because it's already time, I want to answer the question of Joe to customize the errors. There are a few things that you can see still in this, I told you had other tabs. You had the input message tab and you have the error alert tab. In the input message tab, you can see some kind of warning well, not a warning, but some kind of tooltip when you select the cell to tell you, look, you can only, I'll just show you. So employee list, and you can put an input message of you can only enter employee from this company, employee names from this company, something like that. Right? So you can't just put anything. So you see, once looks like I have a typo there, but you see, once you click on any of the cells, there is this thing that just kind of gives you some, information that you just cannot put everything you like into that cell. You have to follow the rules for the cell, right? So that's the first one, some kind of message to you to tell you the kind of info that you can put in the cell. And the other one on the other tab here is the type of alert. There is a stop alert, right? So here, if you check this, show this error alert after the invalid data is entered, you can select stop, warning, or information, right? So stop means you are not able to proceed if it's stopped. Warning means you're allowed to proceed, but it will give you a warning. And information is, yeah, it's just for information. The rule actually will not work for the cell. So in this case, we want it to stop and we want it to display a message, invalid data, for example, data entered. You are not allowed to enter that data in this cell, something like that. Okay, so now let's try to do technical. Do I have technical here already? I do. Let's say logistics. And I press enter. And now you see it's showing exactly the one that we have created. Invalid data entered. You are not allowed to enter the data, that data in this cell, okay? So until you put something that, yeah, it's not working, until you put something that's actually in the list, then you don't see that message. But then again, I said there are the other ones, the warning one and the information one. So if I put warning and I try to put logistics, now you see it's not the red cross sign anymore. It's now this triangle sign. And then it's telling you, you are not allowed to do that, but do you want to continue? If you say yes, it takes it. But of course, I'm pretty sure in the real life, you will not want to do that. So don't use the warning. I recommend you always use the stop if you want your data to be as clean as possible. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, guys? Before we take a 5-10 minutes break?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Yeah, that's mostly for the, for example, employee list.
Mhm.
Because as is right now, when you have a new employee, you'd have to like manually update the table.
Mhm.
So I was wondering, for example, when you click on the data validation, like the formula that we have these dollar signs, both for the rows and for the columns.
Yes.
So I was thinking, like, if you would remove the dollar signs for the rows, would that make it automatic? For
No.
example, like once you know, okay.
No, it won't. It won't. Actually, to make it automatic, we will have to use what they call dynamic, a dynamic source, which is actually a little bit advanced. It's more advanced than this course, in fact, because then I'll need to use formulas like offset and match and things like that, which will be a bit difficult for you guys to understand at this stage. But we will maybe maybe off this training, I can also show you how to do that.
Okay, I was just wondering if it was, yeah,
No,
possible
it's
to
not.
make it
It's not. The
automatic.
dollar sign will not make any difference. No.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, so it's 5:13 in Denmark. It's 4:13 in Nigeria. Can we come back at in the next 7 minutes? So that will be 25, 5:25,
Yes.
and 4:25.
5:25.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
See you.
See ya. Yes.
All right. So yeah, so that's data validation, and that's just about what it is to it. There is another part of data validation that we will not cover because
excuse me, you are not recording yet.
Yes.
You're not showing your
Yes.
screen yet, rather.
Yes. That's correct. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. So well, that's about it for, there is another part of data validation, which is the custom. Let's say I want to do something. Let's say I select custom. Say for here, I want to say the guy that was 0 was absent, for example, right? So absent. I'm trying to think. In the cell, I can say if this value, so I want to be able to highlight people that are absent, and let me see, I'm thinking let's say if this value, so here actually under custom, you can use formulas, and you can actually just type your manual formulas in there. So if I say if this value is say less than 0, okay, don't allow the value to be put into the cell. So it's not really absent. It's the same as hours logged, but it's just me using some kind of formula to force it. That's especially if the formula does not exist in this list here, okay? So in this case, I'm using a custom formula, and I'm just saying that this value must be less than 0. So in fact, I can change this to greater than 0, okay? So that means the value that we put into, not D in this case, it will be E. So I'm looking at E6, and I'm saying that the value that must be here must be greater than 0, okay? And I'm using a formula to enforce that. And I say, okay. So if I put -1, for example, you see it gives me this error to say I'm not allowed to do that, right? And if I put 1, it works, okay? I can also do the range just like the one I did here, where I've said between 0 and 10. And I can do that here and say, remember when I wanted to do the range in the homework that we did earlier on, I used an AND function here. And I said value must be greater than 0, and the value must be, I think it's less than or equal to 10. That's what I put in the other one. And this one was greater than or equal to 0, because 0 has to be allowed. And I close that. So you see what I'm doing here? I'm saying whatever must be in this field must be greater than or equal to 0, or must be less than or equal to 10, okay? And that will force me to put only those numbers between 0 and 10 into that field. So if I try to put 11, it doesn't work. If I try to put 10, it works. If I try to put 0, it works. If I try to put -1, it doesn't work, okay? So that's custom. And again, remember I told you if you wanted to replace, copy the validation to the other fields, you can do Control-C on that one, paste special and validation, and click OK. And now I have that rule in all these cells. And you can see the rule when you go here. You see this one is based on a formula under custom. Any questions? Down here. No questions? Okay. I go back to the slides. So we have talked about data validation. We have seen the drop lists, okay? And we have seen how we can manage the sources. We can see, yeah, you can also use a named range for your source, but don't forget to expand the name if new employees are included in the department. Next, we're going to talk about is grouping and outlining data. For that, I will need this data set again. I'll just copy it again and bring it here. Put it here. It's very simple, this one. If you go under the data toolbar, and you can see under the outline group of commands, you can see the group on group or subtotal, okay? So if, for example, I already had this sorted like this, and I wanted only to see, if I wanted to group all of Alice, then I could just highlight all the rows called Alice and click on group. And now you can see I kind of have these buttons here that I can use to collapse or expand the group. And I can also do that from here, show and hide details. So if I clicked on this, for example, you see now all of Alice are now hidden. And if I clicked on, well, that area and I click on show details, then it kind of just expands. So it's just a way for us to quickly, you know, collapse and expand our data according to what we have selected. If I want another one for Bob, I can do that. Highlight all of Bob, click on group, and now, yeah, it's trying to expand the group, but let's do for Charlie. Yeah, that's just because it's next to it. What we'll typically do is to keep some kind of space between them. I will ungroup that, group it again. So ungrouping is just the other button here, right? So group that. Yeah, I need a space between them, so it will not interfere with the other one. And now I group it. And now you can see I'm starting to group my data, and I can collapse them like this. And grouping can also be in different levels, and you'll see a little bit of that when we do subtotals. And you can expand your groups like that, okay? And you can remove your groups as well. Remove, and now it's gone. I'll just remove those extra. So try it out, group your data. You can also group columns. Say, for example, you were working with a really wide sheet and you wanted to hide the department and priority because you don't want to see them. What you can do actually is to just right click and click on hide, right? But then the thing with such kind of approach is you cannot tell what is hidden or where it is, especially if you're not paying attention to that this is A and this is E. So it means that something is hidden here. So if you weren't paying attention, then you wouldn't know. The better way to do that would be to make a group, right? You group that, and then you can collapse it. So whoever is using this file will know that there's something that's hidden because he can see the plus sign here, and he can click on the plus sign to expand on it, or the minus sign to minus button to collapse it. Okay.
So in this case, it's better to group first before you hide the columns.
It's the grouping also. What the grouping does is to hide the columns. So in fact, actually, let me make another sheet for grouping data. Yeah. So I can delete this one just so it will not interfere. All right. And I will remove it from here. And by the way, to delete, as I told you guys, if you just hold Control minus, it's deleted, right? So if I was working with this data set and it was so big, you could hide. You could just do that and hide. But then if you had shared this file with somebody else, the only way they can know that there's some hidden data is by looking here and seeing that you have column A and then suddenly it's column E. That's the only way they can tell. But if you had used the group function and you just collapse like that and you share this file with someone, they will see that something is hidden here and they can open it. Okay, so it does the same thing. It hides according to the way you have grouped it, but it keeps this sign here and these levels here. So 1 would be the collapsed level and 2 would be the expanded level. So it can help you to, you know, quickly open and hide your data as required. Any questions? Okay. I will, and as I said, to remove it, you can just highlight the same group and click on group and it's gone. All right. Then we talk about subtotals. I think that's the next thing. Yeah, subtotals. So you can see here that we have a data set of employees with their departments, their tasks, the priority of the task, the due date, and the hours logged. Okay. If I wanted to group these, so I wanted to see, for example, a group of that shows me if I wanted to subtotal this so I can see for each employee how many hours he has done. The way to do that would be using this subtotal function here, right? If I click on subtotal, it pops up this screen where it asks me, okay, at each change in what? So I want to see the subtotals based on employee name So I will leave the employee selection here, but I could also change that. But I want to see how many hours each employee has done, okay? And then the function I want to see, it already defaults to sum, but I can also see other things. I can see average hours, count of hours, and so on, product, mean, max, and so on. But I'll leave sum, okay? And then it's asking me that it wants to add this subtotal to what field? And already Excel has already automatically selected the hours logged, because actually I want to see the subtotal of the hours logged for each of the employees. So that's also good. And then there's a few other things here where you can either replace the current, so that's if you had a subtotal there before. You can put a page break between the groups, which we don't need right now. And you can have this summary at the bottom. So we are making summaries for each group of data, but we can also have one summary at the end of the data. So pretty much all of the default selections Excel has done works for me. So I can go ahead and click OK. And now you see what Excel has done. It has grouped my data into 3 levels, right? Level 1 being the names of the employees with the hours and the sum of the hours. You can see there's a subtotal function on the sum of the hours that the individual has done, right? And you can also see at the bottom here, it just says Ali's total is 18 hours, right? And Bob's total is 35 hours and Charlie's total is 25 and so on. And then at the bottom, it gives me a grand total of 175. That means all of these people have done 175 hours altogether, okay? It's a really good tool, and you can also play with the levels. So you can see level 1 would be only the grand total. Level 2 would be only the unique employee names with the hours, the subtotal of the hours that they have logged in. And level 3 will expand everything. So you can see the details of each individual entry for that particular employee. Okay. And of course you can remove it by also using the ungroup. So you can of course highlight everything and just do ungroup and click of course rows and click on OK. So if you do it the first time, it removes the first level. If you do it again, it removes everything, right? You can do that. I just did Control Z to bring it back, right? Okay, any questions? Really, no questions? You all understand grouping and subtotals?
Yeah.
All right, that's good. Very good. All right, so let's go to the other thing, text to columns, right? Text to columns, I will, for now, just remove the groups. So I'll just do that and on group, so I'll just do clear outline. So it just pretty much removes all the groupings, and I will just delete all of the total fields. Just a second. Remove. Okay, now it's back to how it was before. Text to columns. If I wanted to, what it does is it helps you to split text that is inside a particular cell into columns, right? Just as the name implies. So if I, for example, copied these tasks, I put it here, for example, and I wanted to split this into multiple columns, meaning I want install to be on a column of its own, and I wanted software to be on a column of its own. How can I do that? I can use a tool called text to column. Under the data, it's right here, data tools. If I just delete that, and I wanted to do text to column for all of the text here. I could highlight all of them, click on text to column, and now it's asking me that what is going to be my delimiter. And the delimiter is just what is between the characters. And in this case, you can see I want to split my text by space, right? And by the way, I will show you a practical example that you could have used for your homework, where we wanted to separate into first and last name. I'll show you that shortly. So if I did, if I said, okay, I want to split by delimiter, you can also split by fixed width, and I'll come back to that. And if you clicked on next, then it asks you, what is the delimiter that you want to use? And in my case, it's a space. So you can see already that Excel is giving me a preview that is going to split this data where it finds a space and put the rest of the data in a separate column, okay? And I say, yes, that's what I want. I click next. And then it's asking me what will be the format of the data. I can just leave it at general or text or whatever I want. I'll leave it at general and click finish. And you can see here that it has indeed split all the text in the columns into multiple columns. You can see this one, for example, has 3 sets of data. That's why you have onboard new hire, 3 words, and the words have been essentially split into 3 different columns. Okay. And yeah, that's about it for text to columns. I was telling you that you could have done it, in fact, with, when, the homework I gave you with full names. And let's just use my name. Say Joe, for example. So yeah, in the homework, I asked you to use formulas, but that could have also been done using text to columns. If you had a first name here and last name here, right? You could have just highlighted the both cells and did text to columns. You have your delimiter, and we want a space just as before. Next, finish, and there you go. Well, of course, it's pretty much replaced the full name cell, but if you wanted to do it, we could copy that into here and did the text column from here so that it will be on the first and last name cells like this.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
When it's splitted, I saw that for new hire, the hire went on board new hire. I should think that the new hire should be one word, right? So if you wanted the new hire to be together, why the onboard on one column and the new hire together on another column, how can you do that?
Now then it means that your data, because we have said that the split should be on space, right?
Yeah.
So it will split according to what we have said, I've asked it to do. Let's say if I wanted it to be a little bit different, let's say I was working with that, I could have said, okay, you know what? I'll make it new dash hire, okay? So that there won't be a space between new and hire. And I can replace all the ones at the bottom by highlighting them and typing Control D on my keyboard. Then if I did the text to column, if I just copied that again and brought it here, and I did text to column from here, and I maintained my space as my delimiter, and I finish, you can see that new hire is now together in one cell and onboard is. So it depends on what is in your original data and what you have set as your delimiter. Okay.
Okay. Can I ask a question, please?
Sure. Go ahead.
If we are able to separate, can we also be able to join together? Like the same question that Florence just asked, since the new hire, because in some cases there might not be a parenthesis to use to differentiate them or to separate them. If we differentiate or separate into 3 columns, could it be possible to column B to add to column C? Is there a technique for that?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Okay. Now, we have like our first name, our last name, and our middle name. And we use text to column to separate our first name and our middle name and our last name. But the instruction is the first name and the middle name should be together. But applying text to column will separate everything into 3 columns.
Yes.
So there a way to add up the first name and the middle name together in one column? Is there a technique for that?
Well, as I said, it depends on what your delimiter is. And that's why you see I've kind of put a dash here so that there won't be a delimiter as space in my data, right? So some people could do something like this. Say, if Nketa and I add another name, I say, I don't know, Clinton, whatever. Okay. Say that was another name I had, and Joe was Obama. Okay. And I wanted to split this. I'll just delete these for now. Okay. And let's say, if I understand your question well, you want you want to have the first name and the middle name together and the other name in a separate cell. You could, in this case, as I said, the data that you are going to split is what determines how the split is going to happen. So I'll bring that here and I'll do the text to column. But in this case, my delimiter is going to be the comma, right? So I'll come here next and I will not use space. I'll type comma. And you can see it's already doing that for me. It's putting Joe and Council in one side and it's putting Obama in the other side. So it's, it's garbage in, garbage out. It's what you feed it that it will split for you. So in this case, my delimiter was not space. My delimiter was the comma, but it could be anything, in fact. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. So as I said, the delimiter could be anything. It could be, not there. I go back to text to column. Next. So in fact, if you could also have other things here. If I had, I don't know why you would want to do that, but say I had I put a slash there and I put, say my data was like this with a slash and say a salary by the end of it. Let's say 400 or 500, whatever. And I wanted to split this data by one side name and the other side the salary, then I can do that. Okay. I can copy that here. So I can say name, salary. Okay. So I can use text to column here. Next. In this case, I'm going to use other because I don't have slash as one of the selections here. So I'll select other and I'll put my slash here. And you see, it has already recognized that that's where my split is going to happen. And I can say next and finish. Yeah, because I already had data there. So it just gave me a warning that looks like you're going to delete something, but that's okay. I deleted it. And now I have my names on this side and the salaries on this side. So your delimiter is what determines how your split happens. There is another way to do text to column, which is by fixed with. Okay, so I go back there. I go to text to column, fixed with. Now, fixed with works if your data is consistent. So you can see, for example, my name has only 3 letters and Joe's name has only 3 letters. So we can actually manually put a split where we want the split to happen. If I can also add multiple splits, okay? So I can do this, this, and this. So I say Give me a split here, give me a split here, and give me a split here. Maybe I'll just move this one. And to remove these things, you can double click on it and it's gone. And you can just click and put it, and you can also drag it to where you want. So I'll remove this one. So I have, yeah, I have my name, I have the surname, I have the other name, and I have the, and maybe I want to also just isolate the slashes. I could do that. So you see, you have a fixed width, but this one is more useful if your data is consistent, okay? And then next, and of course, it's asking me the output format, and I say finish. Yeah, because I already had data there, but no problem. I say yes. And now you see it has split my data into all the different pieces that I have selected. But of course, there's still some polishing that needs to be done because this one is not needed, so I can remove it. The commas are still here, right? This one, you can remove the comma if you just, on your keyboard, type Control H. It takes you to the replace form. And there is asking you, what do you want to replace? I want to find a comma and replace it with, well, nothing. Just leave the replace with blank and click replace all. And it says it has done to replacement. And now you have a data that has the first name, last name, salary, other name, and salary. Okay, any question? Questions? No question? Good, good, good. So try it out. I'm pretty sure if you do it a couple times, it will become second nature. It's really easy and it's very handy, especially if you have data that you want to split out in a certain way, like the first name and last name. That could be a really good use case for this tool. All right, so the next one is flash fill. This one is actually also quite interesting. Maybe some of you already use it. This one kind of, it's kind of an intelligent way to quickly fill up your data. If I wanted, remember when we did the, we wanted to take the first name. Let's imagine that this was name, or say we wanted to just split this task into columns, right? Or we only wanted the first word of every, maybe I should look for one of the data that contains, I don't know if I have it here, that contains name and first name. Yeah, this one. I will just copy this. Let's use it for this exercise. I'll make a new one. Flash fill. Looks like I have flash fill already. There we go. Ah, yes, okay. I will paste. It was here, copy, and I use the flash fill that I already have, paste. Great. All right. So now, I'll make it bigger. Just look at this. If I just typed my name, I typed Joe here. Did you see that thing that just came? I'll type it again. J. Did you see that?
Yes.
You see, it's kind of telling me, maybe this is what you're trying to do. You're trying to get all the first names. If I press enter, then it locks it in. Excel has just automatically done it for me without even writing a single formula. Remember how we, painfully wrote the formula that was able to extract the first name, the last name, and so on from our data? Well, with flash fill, all you needed to do, in fact, was just start typing. Well, maybe I think some of you that may have old versions of Excel may not have this functionality, but yeah, you see, then it comes. Okay, you can do that. The other thing you can do is to highlight those values, pull it down, And then you can see this little button here that you can click, and it can ask you to do a number of things. It can ask you to do a flash fill. And if I do that, then it just quickly fills in all of the data for me of the first name. If I wanted the last name, the same thing pretty much. I can just start typing my name. I can do that. It kind of repeats my name. But if I change that to a flash fill, then it automatically gives me all of the last names in the list. So it's really, really, really useful. This one. Okay. You can also see it here, flash fill. Okay. The other beautiful thing about flash fill is if I wanted to maybe make only, because flash fill is very intelligent, it recognizes patterns in what you're trying to do. So for example, if I wanted to just fill in only the initials of everybody's name, and mine is IN, so if I type IN here, and I just highlighted all of them and pulled it down, and I did flash fill, then you see how quickly Excel can give us the initial of everybody. And the data is very accurate. Right? Do you have any questions for flash fill? You can also see flash fill here. One other, before you raise your question, one other way you can use flash fill is, as I typed IN here, I could press Control 5, not Control 5, Control, oops, what was the short key? Sorry, Control E, sorry, Control E, and it automatically just does a flash fill for me. So you just needed to put it in one cell. If I type my name, press Enter, Control E, it flash fills for me. Yes?
No, never mind. I figured that already.
All right, great. Is there any other questions on flash fill? It's a really handy tool that can help you populate your data very fast if you had to extract some parts of your data. So this one is even better than text to columns. And remember the question you asked me, Glory, where, I'll just delete this for now, where you, if I had another name here, and here I had, I said Obama, right? Remy is not here. Let's say Tinubu. Give me world leaders.
Trump.
Yeah. Another one.
Zelensky.
And one more.
Putin.
Last one. No other world leaders. Come on.
Elon Musk.
Joe, what's our president?
Elon
Musk is not a world leader.
Just HH.
But it's powerful.
How do you spell your president's name?
It's a long name, but just put HH.
HH, like this. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Good. If I wanted only the name without the middle name, I could have just typed my name, press Enter, Control E, and it'll just give me all of the first names and ignoring the, so it's very intelligent, this one. I can also type Clinton here, Control E, and it populates all of the middle names. So I'm pretty sure you'll like this one, Glory. Awesome. Yeah, so it's already 6 o'clock. And let me see. And we still haven't gone through the data management. Let's do, if it's okay by you guys, let's spend another, say, 5-10 minutes to finish a few other things. I want to reach the next section and start that next week. If that's okay, just tell me. You can say yes in the chat. Yeah, yeah. Okay. I need 4 okays to, or yeses to, all right, let's go. Very good. Perfect. So now here we're going to be talking about, external data sources, okay? And how we can bring data from other files into the current file that we're working with, okay? And let's say I make a data set with this data here, right? I'll just open a new Excel spreadsheet. I'll paste it there. I say this is, let's say, let's make this one full name. Let's make this only first name. So I'll just delete what was there before. Type my name. Control 5. Do flash fill. I have something at the top, so flash fill. And last, last name. Delete that. Last name. Fill. Flash fill. And let's say middle name. And sorry, Clinton. Like all flash fill. All right. And I will save this data. Let's say on my desktop, I'll make a new folder and I'll call it external now data. And I'll call this one data. And it's an Excel document and I save it there. Okay. And I will just quickly go to that folder on my desktop and open it. This is the folder right here. Where is my file? Oops, looks like I didn't put it inside the folder. Okay. I will make a copy of this data. Let's say this one I was using for my analysis, for example. Okay. Now in this analysis file, I'll remove the data, okay? But now I want to be able to see the data in the data file in the analysis file. I will just try to half my screen like this and put the other one, the data file on the left. Okay, so we have the data file here and the analysis file here. And I want to bring this data into this file using an external data source, right? So I'll go to data, get data, and there are multiple sources that you can connect data from. In this case, I'm connecting it from another Excel workbook, but you could also connect from a CSV file, from XML. You could have connected from a database. So all of these are different types of databases, SQL, Oracle, MySQL, and so on. Even from SAP, for those of you that use SAP, I could have connected from Azure, from hundreds, literally hundreds of data sources, okay? But in this case, I'm going to connect from another Excel spreadsheet. So I will click that, and then a window will pop up to ask me to select which file I want to connect to. And in this case, it's inside this external data folder, and it's this one I call data, and I can import it. And now it's kind of importing in the background. And then it brings up this navigator screen. And it's asking me that, yeah, in that data.xlss workbook, I can see only one sheet that contains this data, okay? And it's, of course, asking me if I want to bring that in. So I can click on load. And now it just brings the data to my screen, okay? Now I can see that this data has an extra, header. It doesn't recognize that this was the header of the original data, right? To make this one the original, I know this is well, what I'm going to explain is, I'll explain it better in future classes, but we can actually see this data connection. If we click on data and queries and connections, we can see that I am connected to another file called sheet1, okay? And I can actually do a number of things with this data if I clicked on edit, right? It will pop up a screen we call the Power Query Editor. Now, consider this as only just an introduction, okay? And I will explain more to you guys in other lectures, okay? And then you can select use first row as headers. So it will pretty much move all of that first row as the header, okay? And I can just go ahead and close it, and it will refresh. And now you can see that the first row is now the header, just like I have it in the source data. Close this for now. So you see the source data is identical to the data that is connected. So this one is not real data. This is just connected data. And this is the original data that we are working with. And the good thing with this one is it's dynamic. So if I added somebody else, say I added Thelma to this list. So this list, it's an H there. And I used Obasanjo. Don't call me after now, Thelma. And I just, manually did this. Just copy, paste, copy, paste, and remove that. Now I save the original data. So the thing is, your employees or the people that are entering data will be working in this live file, and you are using this one for analysis. So all you just need to do is to maintain that connection to the original file. And once in a while, you can just right click and refresh the data. And you can see that I didn't have to type it in. It just comes into this file automatically because there is an existing connection to this data. And you can see the connection to this data if you clicked on queries and connections. You can see that there is one connection, and you can have as many connections as possible to this file. Let's, before we go, let me just use the one in the connection in the file in the slides, this one here. You can see I have an example here where you can connect to world population data. Let me just copy that link. I'll just copy that. Copy. And I will come back to my analysis file. I will go to data, get data. This time around, I want to get it from other sources, and it will be from the web, right? So I'll click web. And then, of course, it will ask me what's the URL, which is what I copied just now, okay? So this is the URL to the world population data. And I can click on OK. And now it's trying to load the data from the internet. This is data from the internet. And it tells me that when I reach that page, I can see, and it's populating, I can see the pages that will load up here shortly. I can see all of these data, okay? And I can click on each one of them to see a preview of what is in that page. And this is quite good. This is quite good. This is the different countries and their population and the population change by year and so on. And there's other tables in the file, which I'm not really interested in. I'm just interested in that one. I can just go ahead and load that one into Excel. And now you can see it's loading on a separate sheet. And you can see I have another connection here. And you can see the world population data on this sheet right here. So I still have my first data, which is this one, sheet one. And I have another data source, which is this one, which I have gotten from the internet. And I could add as many other sources of data as I wish to this file. I know I touched on a lot of different concepts with this one, but consider this as an introduction and we'll dig a little bit deeper into it next week. But for now, do you have any questions on what I've just done? Are you guys still with me?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, good. So it's clear how you can go to data and go to get data, and then you can connect to all these sources. What I've just done is I've connected the first one to another Excel workbook, and the other one I've gone to other sources and I've connected from the web. But like I said, you could have also connected from any other source as required, okay, depending on where the data is located. As I said, for those of you that use SAP, you could have connected to the SAP from here. And if the data was from an Oracle database from here, from a MySQL database from here, from Access from here, and basically it'll just list out all of the different connected data sources on the right side. And then, of course, there are further things you can do with this connected data. You can start to analyze it. You can add conditional formatting. You can see the countries with the highest population. You can sort like this to see the country with the lowest population or the country with the highest population, as the case may be. You can, yeah, you can see Vatican. Vatican has a really, really small, that's not Vatican. Yeah, the data, it's kind of funny. It's not giving me, it's not sorting correctly. Maybe because the field is not, obviously the field is not a number field. It should have been a number field. And to change it to a number field, I have to go into the query, which is beyond the scope of today's class. But yeah, I can sort the names, the countries alphabetically. Yeah, and you can see all the ones with A all the way to Z at the bottom. And Zambia is right here, right? So you can do whatever you want with connected data, just as you do with the data that exists in the table. I'll just bring it back to the default. All right, I think we have stretched it quite a bit today. I guess we'll continue from here tomorrow, next week, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Next week, we'll finish this, well, talking about tables and data management, and then we'll go to the next session, which will be charts and visualization.
How many more sections do we have left?
Well, this is 5. It's 8 sections. So I think next week we'll finish it because the last one is more exercises. There are 2 big sessions that we need to look at. We still have to look at charts and visualization, pivot charts, then some advanced Excel features, and the last one is, so I think we can finish up next week. We can finish the charts and visualization on Saturday, and on Sunday we can do the advanced features, some other advanced features, and some review. Okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for today. If there is nothing else, some people have been very quiet in this class. I'm going to call you Waziri and Belma. I hope you have been following along.
Yes, I have.
Okay,
Just trying to catch up since I missed yesterday's class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, you have the video in the chat, so just go ahead and watch it again. Awoli, are you okay? Awoli, are you following us?
Yeah, I have a lot of catching up to do. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but it's okay.
All right, great. So you have the week to catch up as much as possible.
Yes, to work on everything. Yes.
All right, very good. Very good.
Okay.
So see you guys on Saturday next week. Same time.
All right. Yeah, thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.